So I have here the actual poem that I found that day. Okay, it's called Holding Me. The road was dark and dreary. My eyes were getting weary. I could not see my hand in front of me, but I felt your hand holding me. The conditions grew so bleak that I could hardly hear you speak. The winds blew like a monsoon, and I wondered if relief would come soon, but I felt your hand holding me. While my eyes grew ever dim, fear boiled over the brim. I cried out in shame and turned to you with the blame, but I felt your hand holding me. I wanted to turn back as my temperance began to crack, but in my heart I knew I had crossed the Rubicon with you, but I felt your hand holding me. You said that you had a plan, but how could you use such a sinful man? You said I was able, my mind said I was unstable, but I felt your hand holding me. Your words brought me back alive like a musical reprieve. My heart beat again, my mind no longer thought of sin, but still I felt your hand holding me. The path did not get lax and left me no time to relax. The evil one tried to tear us asunder throughout the midst of the thunder, but still I felt your hand holding me. The road's end was drawing near and my eyes began to tear. I finally saw that glorious city and had no room for my unholy self-pity, but still I felt your hand holding me. My heart skipped a beat as I went dancing down the street. I was finally in this wonderful place that was full of your mercy and grace. At last I saw you face to marvelous face. Your hand held me the whole way. Jacob Levitt, February 2015. Now I can tell you, friends, I found this on the fourth day after the accident, about 6 o'clock in the morning, and I don't even remember crying out after I read that silently, but I cried out so loudly that my mother-in-law and sister-in-law came in the room to find out if I was okay. And at that point, I was just weeping. And I said, what a treasure God gave me. I had no idea that my Jacob had had such a moment of wrestling with God of his own. He'd never told anyone. My husband, Myron, Caleb, none of us knew. We knew that he was involved in church. We knew that he was involved in his youth group, that he served. We knew all of that, but this is the innermost workings of his heart and mind that no one knew. But God knew. Friends, I want to encourage you that even when we don't know, when we don't see, God is at work behind the scenes. Our job is to pray. Pray for our children. Pray for our loved ones that don't know Christ or that we're not sure if they do. Pray when those things bring us anxiety and worry. Our God is able to move behind the scenes, even on a 17-year-old boy, and prepare him 6 months before he was going to need to answer for his life. And he was able to do that and reassure this broken mom that I will see my son again. The second story that I want to tell you is when we moved down to Sanford for ministry. That's where we live now in Florida. We're about a 2-hour drive from where the accident was. When we moved down here, we weren't down here very long, and through a series of events that really was just God lining it up, I met this lady who had recently lost her 17-year-old son in a driving accident. And we got to know each other, and I don't know, it had been several months that we got to know each other. She was okay with me being a Christian, although she wasn't. She was aware of it, but she wasn't herself. So we were developing a friendship and a relationship, and I remember telling my husband, Myron, that I was getting to the point where I was getting concerned. What if she asked me, is my child in heaven? What if she asked me, how will I answer her? Because I don't know. They weren't church-going people. How was I going to answer that? And it finally got to the point through prayer and talking with Myron that I said, okay, I think what I'm going to do if that comes up is I'm going to share our story and how we can't take the God factor out. God loves our children even more than we do, so he is going to do every single thing that he can to reach them. That's just his heart. That's how he is. He's so good like that. Well, before it even came up, before she was able to ask, before I had to figure out if this is going to be a really uncomfortable conversation, she said, "Oh, hey, Jenny, I need to tell you something." So, friends, this is how amazing our God is to set these things up when we don't even know. Her son used to go and spend the summers, I'll just say, with his dad. And he had to help run some charter boat excursions and stuff like that. So she did not know, this was probably about a year after she lost her son before she found out, that the captain of that boat was a sold out believer in Jesus that just loved people, and she didn't even know that he had been witnessing to her son and sharing the love of Jesus with him. And he didn't feel comfortable telling her until it had been about a year. But he said, "I just needed to let you know that the summer before he passed, I prayed with your son to receive Christ, and I baptized him in the Atlantic Ocean." And when my friend told me this, I just sat back and I was like, "Oh, God, you were so, so good. You answered that before she could even ask me about that." Now, that is a really encouraging story. The other story I shared about me finding the poem, I hope both of those encourage you. But more than anything, friend, there's nothing unique about me or my friend. Our God truly loves our children more than we do, which is so hard to fathom, but it's true. He does. He is going to do everything within his power to make sure that they are ready to stand before him. And I know some of you, your loved ones died instantly, okay? I know my son died almost instantly. If not instantly, pretty close to it. I know that fear of wondering, is my child in heaven? But I have been assured that my God loves our children. Don't lose hold of that. Don't lose sight, but hold on to that truth that there is the God factor element. He is going to move. He is going to show himself and make himself real, even to our children, no matter what the age is. One last thing I want to leave you guys with. The book that I wrote about our family story is called GodPrints, Finding Evidence of God in the Shattered Pieces of Life. And I start out that book by saying where I get the name for it. The name is from, my husband's a pastor. It's from a sermon he preached many, many years ago on the footprints of Satan, recognizing when Satan is tromping around your life, when things are going on. And how when we went through grief, I like to flip that on its head, and I like to look for God's fingerprints in our lives. Those moments where God came down and intersected here on this planet where we live, when he personally revealed himself in our lives. So these moments that I shared with you through these two stories are my moments, but you have your own if you will look for them. If you look, you can find where God has already been helping you. He's already been helping your children, your loved ones, your family. And something else I want to leave you with is recently my pastor up in Jacksonville, our pastor, recently reminded me of a truth that I want to share with you. He said, "Jen, sometimes you have to trust God's heart even when you can't trace his hand." And that's from my pastor, Pastor Ron Meyer up in Jacksonville, Florida. I'm very grateful for it. There's some real truth in there. That sometimes we just have to trust that his heart is good, that his heart is for us and for our children. And just like Romans chapter 8 says, he's going to work all things for good for those who love him. We may not see it now. It may not be till eternity. He may just give us glimpses now. But we can choose to trust. And that's what I encourage you to do today. And on one last note, if there's any questions that you would have for me or for Caleb or for Myron or any way that we can help you, will you let us know? Type it in the comments or reach out to me through my website, which is just my name, jennylevitt.com, or you can email me, jenny@jennylevitt.com. Just reach out and we'll see if we can't get on the right journey, the journey to healing and hope that hopefully brought you here to begin with.
Let's journey together through the depths of despair and emerge with renewed hope and resilience. Be sure to subscribe now and stay tuned for our next videos, where we'll continue sharing stories of faith, healing, and transformation.